welcome back to our podcast. So, we have a new title now for this series. It's called When All Things, like when all things are possible, when all things are manifested, when all things we talk about the good, the bad, and the worst of times. But lessons learned whenever we talk about these things on the podcast. So, hi. Of course, obviously, the podcast is like run by me and Paulo all the time, every week. And today's topic, it's going to be a really deep one. And I think Paulo's going to be agreeing that this is going to be a really deep conversation. This is called the ego versus the soul. Ooh, it's like the ego versus the soul.
Mm, yeah.
Okay. I mean, what are your thoughts on that whenever you hear the ego versus the soul, Paulo? I want to know your thoughts on it.
Sometimes ego, I, sometimes ego, I feel like, and you are letting a certain type of entity drive your emotion or what you're going to do, what you're thinking. But soul is more like, I know what is right, but I don't want to do it type of thing. I think.
Mm.
So like ego for me, and then sometimes for me as a fighter, ego, I've talked to this with one of my other friends. As a fighter, my ego can get the best of me,
Mm-hmm.
and I could say, okay, I'm one of the more experienced fighters, and I'm just going to dominate every single round, and I'm gonna overlook every single teammate that hasn't fought before. Um, but another part of me, which I feel like is my soul, is telling me, hey, anybody can get you at any time. You can't take anybody lightly. You have to stay locked in, dialed in every round. And one day my ego actually got the best of me. I went with another partner of mine, and when in my mind I was like, okay, I beat him up, or I've done well with him already. So this next round, okay, I'm gonna have my way again. And this next round, I let because that was my mindset going into the round. He got me in a dominant position and was attacking a rear naked choke on me. And I as I was getting attacked, I said this is the reason why you should not ever let your ego get the best of you, because anybody can get you in any position. At the end of the day, if my ego, because of my ego, I let my guard down, and now he's putting pressure on me. So that's what I feel like. Sometimes ego is bad, and how it could really, if you don't humble yourself, it can really deter you from your true purpose or your true potential. And if you listen to your soul and you just stay patient, you wait, you don't you find answers from God, then because he speaks to you through your soul. So if you stay patient, he'll uplift you in ways you don't even imagine. So that's what my 2 cents on ego versus soul. So but I would love to hear your version of ego versus soul.
This is going to actually really shock you. So, I'm going to read something to you that I just learned recently. And this really spoke to my soul. And this is in regards to Genesis of the Bible, right? We're not getting Bible here, just to let you all know. I'm very, very spiritual. I believe in
Why not?
God, the universe. He's like, why not? I'm like, no, no, no. Like, let's repeat that. There is a respect in every religion that I have, just for the record, everybody. Okay. I do have that respect. But I am going to get into the book of, like, where all Genesis, talks about. No, I'm not going to bore you with reading it word for word, but there is a perception that just really stuck out to me of what it means of the ego versus the soul. So this is what I got. So I recently watched this movie called Samadhi. I kid you not, watch that movie. If you guys have not seen Samadhi, watch it, please. It's free on YouTube. That changes your life. It's better than watching the freaking documentary called The Secret. Samadhi is a whole another level. It speaks to your soul. I kid you not. Changed my life, changed my perspective. And I said to myself, damn, I thought I know what I know. Boy, howdy, I was wrong. No, you do not know what you know. We're learning every single day. And this is the reason why I
Amen.
wanted to do this podcast, because I'm so excited that I'm very, very connected to my soul versus my ego. Don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with ego either. Like, because ego is duality, soul is non duality. This is why it's called the yin and yang. The yang is the mind, the yin is your soul. So, Paulo's probably like, oh, I want to hear this. What's
No,
going
it's
on?
crazy you bring that up because I'm reading a book right now. I finished the Mamba Mentality one, and I'm on one about Bruce Lee and his philosophy. He
Mm-hmm.
talks about the yin and yang, how everything, like if you look at the yin and yang symbol, they're opposites, right? But they make one whole.
Yes.
So
It's the
like you need both. You need both sides.
Yes, the duality and the non-duality. But here is the problem with society right now, with all of us, is that there's nothing wrong with ego. Don't get me wrong, there's healthy egos, but there's
Yes.
also unhealthy egos. But I'm telling you right now, what if I was to tell you, even sometimes spiritual enlightenment can also be ego?
Mhm.
That actually really shook me to the core, because I'm all about the path of enlightenment. And when I heard that, I said, wait a minute, pause real quick of my life. Do you mean to tell me I'm
I
in my ego? Right? And I was watching
yeah, I
Samadhi.
agree.
Right. I was watching Samadhi and I was like, wait. Am I still in my ego or am I talking to my soul? What is the path of
Mm,
enlightenment? It shook me to the core. So I'm going to
mm,
read you something that I wrote down while I was watching Samadhi. So there is Adam and Eve. So we're talking about Adam and Eve right now. Adam and Eve was in the Garden of Eden, filled with bliss and the not knowing. So you all heard me saying all the time that it's good to go into the unknown, right? Because when you go to the unknown, there is that fear. It's coming from the ego. There's that fear, that self limiting beliefs. There's that thing where I don't want to jump into the unknown. It's too scary, or I have doubts, or I don't have the definitive answer. People always want to find the facts. People always want to find the facts. They don't want to believe. They don't want to jump into the leap of faith because it's too scary
yeah.
for them, right? And we all went through that. I went through that. It was a very scary thing. I mean, what I'm going through right now in my life transitions, this shit is scary. Okay. This is not taken lightly. It is scary. I
Right.
needed to find my answers. And you know what? I'm not talking from the mind or the ego. I am talking from the soul. Now it's coming from the soul. So I'm going to read this again. Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, filled with bliss and the not knowing. So they were in the unknown. So they were safe with God. God gave them a safe haven. Like, we're in the garden, we're safe. We don't know anything. We don't know snap. There's no knowledge of
Yeah.
anything. All they knew was they were in the unknown and they were safe. They were never going to die, right? That was God's
Mhm.
promise. So this is my perception as to what happened. They had no ego. They were just
Mm,
really in this state of bliss, like you don't know what's going on. No ego or thoughts, and was still given bliss. That's what I wrote down. No ego or thoughts, and was given bliss. Now, here's what happened when ego existed. Eve ate the apple of knowledge. You hear me? Eve ate the apple of knowledge, the ego, which led them to banishment, This is the reality we live in now when the ego takes over versus the soul. A not knowing mind is the gateway to samadhi. So, samadhi means in Indian culture, it means ashes. That's what they call it. But in samadhi, in the movie, what they were saying to this is that this is actually coming from a soul level. This is what it means to be surrendering into your ego, surrendering and letting go. I finally figured out and broke the code as to what it truly means to surrendering and letting go. Surrendering and letting go means that trust the process of the unknown, because again, we are living outside of the Garden of Eden. Because why? That stupid apple that we ate, because we're feeding way too much knowledge into our mind. Too much, too much. It's kind of like we're like a phone, we're like a cell phone. When you have hella apps that's open, what do you think is happening to your phone?
When it's draining the battery.
Exactly. So what do you think is happening with us when we're putting way too much pressure into our mind, that ego, that talking to us, whether that's the path of enlightenment, whether that's the path of like success,
It's
the
draining
path of
our energy.
whatever. Bingo. Ding, 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 bingo. And I was like so flabbergasted, like, oh my God, that's exactly what's happening. I'm putting way too much into my mind. That's why when we're overthinking, when we're forcing way too much things. So I got this all wrong with manifestation. That's why I'm about to make another video called Manifestation Gone Wrong. But don't get me wrong. The things that I taught people, that does work. It does work, you know. But the issue with that, why it doesn't work, is because people do not know how to let things go, how to surrender things, to trust the process. They're overthinking
Mhm.
things like, why is it not working? Like, why is it not working in my favor? Or why is it that there's always this why? Like, you're always trying to find the answer. This is what God's going to tell you, and I'm going to be harsh about it. And if people want to, blacklist me or whatever, by all means, have fun, but I'm going to speak to the truth, and it's going to sound harsh. God literally is going to tell you, please shut up and trust me. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, please shut up and trust me. Because at the end of the day, you're asking me for something, but if you're not going to trust me, why are you even bothering to ask me for something?
Mhm.
Why are we forcing it? That's the problem. This is the reason why certain energies and certain manifestations is not coming in, because we have so much ego. We're egocentric. We're very egoistic. As much as I hate to say
Yeah.
that, we really are. And even when we know the path of enlightenment, we know, here's the thing. We know in our minds of the path of enlightenment, but in truth, we're still talking to our ego, and that's why things are not happening into our favor to what we want. But when we're letting go and surrendering to the soul and just being in the now, just being in still in that present moment, and just not caring what the outcome looks like, I'm telling you, dude, as soon as I did that, 20 people signed up for my programs. 20 people.
Wow.
20 people, new people. I was struggling for a
Yeah.
little bit there, like, what's going on? Where's my energy coming
Yeah.
from? Like, why is it not happening? The minute I surrendered and let go, the things I needed to let go, 20 people signed up for my program. And guess what? I'm going to read you another thing that's going to blow your mind. This is about Jesus Christ. Okay. So
Okay.
everybody thinks Jesus Christ died on the cross because he died for our sins. What if I was to tell you that was completely false too?
Jesus Christ did not.
Why would a human being die for the whole entire world? Why would he do that?
Okay. Okay. What's your
Would you
reasoning?
would you do that for me? That's the question. Would you do that for me? Would you
Well,
die for
that's
me?
why. Well, that's why Jesus is so special.
Here's the thing. Jesus is special, but there is a different reason why he's so special. And I'm going to tell you why. Now we're talking to the soul. This is called ego versus the soul. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you what's going on with Jesus Christ. So I literally figured this out because I read the Bible again and I took it to a different perspective. And I said, God dang it, we need to read this book again. People do not understand what this means. People are still thinking of the ego. This is why the perception of the Bible is being so discerned in so many different levels, and it's used as a control in the egoistic mind, which is really facts, and which is really awful because I didn't even realize I was doing it too. Like, I was
Mhm.
reading that, I was going in the path of enlightenment, Christian, everything, right? And I didn't realize that I was using the Bible in the egoistic terms. I
Mm.
wasn't speaking to it from a soul level. And I just realized that. So here's what I wrote, and I'm going to read it to you. So this is the epiphany that I got from everything that I've read. I'm speaking from my soul. Like I really went deep inside my soul. Ever since I went through this life transition that I went through, I had to go deep into my soul. I needed to know, not from the ego, but from what my soul is telling me. So it says here, from what I wrote, Jesus Christ died on the cross, not for our sins, but to fully surrender to God's purpose, to reclaim his victory, and to show the people what that looks like in fully trusting your soul to the divine. Meaning to say is, when Jesus came here to earth, Jesus was here as a primary example of what it means to go through the ego versus the soul. That's exactly what his purpose was. He was trying to show that to the people. He didn't come here to die for your sins, because here's the thing, people are going to sin regardless, no matter which
Yeah.
innate of the soul comes and reincarnate here in this world. Jesus came back here as a human being. He was an angel. We all know this. I'm pretty positive of this, that Jesus was an angel. But God said, you know what? We need a human being to come down here named Jesus, right? I'm pretty sure God chose that name for him already. We all were chosen by God. I'm going to tell you this right now. We are all chosen by God. We are all souls. This is just a shell. Everything that you guys are seeing, this is an illusion. This is an illusion right here. Everything that you see right here, all the body, this is just shell. The soul is the one that's connecting to you the most. The one is the alpha and the omega, is the beginning and the end. The soul is exactly like that. So that's why God is the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. So he is telling a story with Jesus. Okay, Jesus comes in. I chose Mary as the mother. I have, whatever in the timelines, right? So long story short, he came to this world because he wants to be the primary example, although there's some missing pieces in the Bible of him being a teenager. How did he innate certain gifts, right? We didn't know about that part. We don't know because they never put it in the Bible, or they just can't translate it from the one in Jerusalem. We don't know.
Mm.
But I will tell you this. He did not die for people's sins. He died because he wanted to show us what it would look like to follow what God wanted him to do, which is he knew he was going to die. He knew that God said, this is what's going to happen. This is how you're going to show the people. You're going to show compassion, empathy, love, everything in the innate of your soul, your soul. God says, are you going to follow your ego? Because he was fighting his ego all the time. When things were getting hard, he knew his days were almost numbered. He was about to get arrested. He was about to get killed, everything. He knew the mind was fighting him. So, of course, here comes the soul, which is where God speaks to you. God speaks to you in your soul. This is the reason why I said this is ego versus the soul. Which one are you going to follow? Your ego or your soul? Honey, I'm going to tell you right now, feels so good right now that I'm following my soul. It feels amazing. I feel peaceful. I have no idea where the Zen comes from. I don't even know what the term Zen meant until now. Until now. And I finally get it and I finally understand it. And the purpose is there. And you always say it yourself, chasing purpose. But we're not going to say chasing purpose because we're not chasing anything. We are attracting and allowing for purpose to come.
Mm.
Because that's the part of the soul. And God
Mhm.
says everybody has different purposes, just like what Jesus did. Jesus had a purpose. Jesus was known now as he died for the sins. But the truth of the matter is, he actually wanted to show us proof that he spoke to his soul, not from his ego. He followed God's divine plan, he followed God's purpose. And that's
Right.
exactly what I'm doing right now. And I am hot. It is 56 degrees right now. And I'm hot. I have the windows open and I am
Yeah.
sweating like crazy. That's how you know I'm speaking from soul. But again,
Mhm.
it's so hard to explain this. But if you watch Samadhi, it's so good. Like it's so
Mhm.
good. It's gonna click to you. But I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, that's probably a lot for you. You're like, holy crap, that's a lot.
Yeah. No, I was just listening because I'm hearing your perspective. It's actually funny because I'm reading the Old Testament right now,
Mhm.
and in the Old Testament, before Jesus's time, the Lord God every time an Israelite committed a sin,
Mm-hmm.
they would have to kill a sheep or an ox. They would have to have an offering for
Mm-hmm.
their sin. And they would be there's a whole process that they would have to go through to be forgiven of their sin.
Yeah.
So that's why they call Jesus the Lamb of God, because he was God in flesh. So
Mm-hmm.
he was actually God.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he died on that cross, it was that's why he dies for our sins, because he's the last lamb of God that had to be killed and sacrificed for our sin.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're able to um essentially not have to kill lambs, or like, so right now to this day,
I
if
think we're
we
eating them
sin,
already, though.
exactly,
At
we
this
are.
point, I think
But
we're eating them at this point.
and so in the Old Testament too, it said you would have to get the blood. That's why it's symbolism. So the blood of the lamb, you would have to use it to spray the altar. You'd have to spray the altar, but you were able to eat the lamb.
Mm.
So the flesh of the lamb you're able to eat, but the blood was used, and that's what it says in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
So it's in, but yeah, that's that. And then that's my what I've learned. And
Hmm.
but
The take on
we
the
were going
book.
back to we were going back to but yeah, no, that because that was interesting how, because I just think that it makes it in my perspective, it makes total sense. Like, that's why everything is the way it is. But
Hmm. Hmm.
like everything aligns with what you're saying though. Like
It does align. There's no, I didn't say it was
yeah,
wrong. It does align if you
right.
really look at it. It does.
Yeah.
Like I said, the book can speak to your soul. It can. It can speak to your soul. And if you really look at yourself innately into it, it can speak to your soul. People, unfortunately, in this world, use the book in the context of ego, control,
Mhm.
trying to control things, trying to maintain things rather
Yeah.
than fully surrendering. Nobody is really surrendering their soul into the innate of the divine. That
Yeah.
is the problem. And that's
Yeah.
what I realized, like, oh my God, I'm an enlightener, healer. And I'm realizing this, like, wait a second, am I really speaking from the ego? Am I speaking from the soul?
Um, no, so the whole thing about surrendering too, like I've done that these past couple of years. Um, I've realized I do need to surrender after graduating college, not having sense of direction. I every single day I woke up with a lack of direction. I just said, "Hey Lord, I'm gonna surrender my life to you." And 5 years later, 4 years later, this is where I'm at. And so, but that's my biggest question is for people who, you know, are losing their direction or don't have direction, how do they surrender and find out? It's just interesting because that's the unknown, right?
Yep.
Um, that's the unknown you're talking about because it's
Mhm.
hard. It really is like it's like driving a car and then you're surrendering the direction of the car by not even just you're just letting it drive itself type of
Like
thing.
there's no navigation. Like there's no
Yeah,
navigation,
or
no GPS.
pretty much, yeah. So you're just
Hmm.
I don't know. It's kind of scary. Um, but like you said, like it's kind of easier for in this point of our lives to surrender because you have your routine now. You kind of know who you are. You're a healer. I'm a fighter. We have an idea of what we need to do on a daily basis, but the surrender comes in when I don't know my opponent, or you don't know when your next client is coming in. Um, you know, unexpected injury happens, or a crazy situation in your life occurs. So it's like it's it's kind of crazy because like at the end of the day, you still understand that you do need to surrender. Like anything that happens to your life, in your life, whatever it is, it's like it happens for a reason and you're going to have to go through it to get to the other side, but you don't even know what the other side kind of looks like sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And that's where
So
the
I mean,
ego sets in, the fear, the self-limiting beliefs. Nobody wants to jump into the unknown. But guess what? That's exactly what it is with the Garden of Eden, where Adam and Eve was. It was the unknown. No, Adam and Eve didn't know what was going on the outside of the garden. Nobody knows about technology. Nobody knows
mm,
about, grounding, the tree of life. None of that stuff. Nobody knew.
mm,
That's called bliss. You see what I'm saying? That is
yeah,
the unknown. Where they were at was the unknown. You don't get to die. You just get to sit around and just, playing it kosher. You are with animals that are friendly. You know what I mean? And guess what?
right.
Because we gave into the temptation of the mind, which is the ego versus the soul, this is exactly why we took this topic to an extent level. This is
Mm,
exactly why people are so miserable. Think about it. Look how much, I mean, don't get me wrong, some of our things that we have, it's very useful, like social media, like right now sharing these things that I know and what
mm,
we know, in the podcast. Like, it's very useful for people to understand and to know this. It's very important because it comes and goes. It comes together with manifestation, because people are always asking me, Rika, I'm doing the tools that you do, but why is it not working, da, 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 da. And then I keep trying to tell them, well, where's your energy at? What is going on
mm,
with your energy? Are you having negative thoughts? Are you forcing or resisting? What's going on there? Because if you're forcing energy, of course, God's not going to allow to let things come in, because you're forcing things. If you are also resistant to what God is telling you what to do, then guess what? God's not going to give you what you want either. So you have to let some things go in order for some things to come into your life that are so much better. And I think I really
mm,
truly believe that, because look, I went through a very man, that's so bad. I was like, I went into a very rough transition the past few weeks, but look how much abundance came back into my life. Like, wow.
yeah, yeah.
Amazing. And then what's crazy is that I'm getting a brand new place, right? A brand new place. I'm going to get one. And it was on my vision board, Paulo. The new
Mm,
place is literally 2 years old. And it was on my vision board and it came to life. I said, what? Everything that's happening right now is coming to life. Why? Because there was one more thing that I needed to do, was surrendering what my ego was taking over me. And as soon as I surrendered that ego, that egoistic mindset that I had, and I went to my soul, I tell you, this Zen feeling that I have, it is amazing. I don't know where it came. I mean, I know where it came from, but at the same time, I don't know where it came from, if that makes sense. I'm
mm,
at, I'm in this peaceful Zen. Now I can actually say this feels like Zen. People do not know what that term means. You don't know. People can always say, "Oh, it feels Zen," or "It looks like Zen." And I'm
mm,
going to tell you guys right now, you don't know what Zen is. You have no idea what Zen is until you reach to this point where you have to go through the dark night of the soul, meaning you have to go through the path of darkness. You have to walk that darkness. If you don't walk that
right.
darkness, you're never going to see the path of light. And that is called the duality. The duality is the darkness, which is the mind and the ego. The light of path of enlightenment is your soul, the innate of your soul. No matter how many times we can call in universe, spirit guides, whatever, whatnot, I tell people that's never going to be enough. I tell people, where is your conversation with God in all of this?
Mhm,
Your conversation with God is your number one path. And guess what? That's what's going to get you feeling whole and connected with your soul. Not other people, not the places or the success that you have. It's the soul. And I can promise you this, the minute I gave my soul to myself with God, all open doors happen. All
mhm,
opportunities came up. I said, what? 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 Like, it just shocks me till this day. And and you guys can see it in my face. Like, I'm so happy. And people are telling me I'm glowing. I have guys and girls looking at me. I'm like, what? Why are you guys looking at me? Like, this is weird. Like, they're like in awe of me. I don't know why, but they tell me you're just glowing. We can't
mhm,
explain it, but it just feels so awestruck. And I think I know the reason why, because right now, guys, it's 56 degrees here and I'm like super hot and I'm sweating, okay? And that's the reason why I know, because I'm so whole with myself now. I feel complete.
Yeah.
I feel so
Yeah.
connected to God. I feel so complete. You have no idea. It just feels so zen.
That,
And then look what
that's good
happened.
that,
Open
you know, what I
doors.
mean, because a lot of people, it's hard to surrender, or even just like, what does that mean? Like, you know what I mean? A lot of people can watch this and be like, what does that mean? What does surrendering mean? Like, you know, it's like hard to even grasp that idea. But it's like, another thing is, it's the difference between striving and, like, I don't know what but it like striving. It's like you're trying to take all control of what's gonna happen within your life, you know? And you're gonna like, and I used to do that. I used to try to like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out. I'll do this, I'll do that. And it felt like I was I was making myself busy.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't know if I've said this before, but it was like I was making myself busy, but not going anywhere. Like I was running 100 miles per hour, but I wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Now my schedule looks like I'm doing the same things, like I have like maybe 4 to 5 tasks a day,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't feel like I'm tired at the end of the day. I mean, well, training is very tiring, but like I haven't done anything else but train. But
Mm-hmm.
it just feels like in life, I'm moving so fast. Like I know the next fight's gonna come, or like I'm excelling in what I'm supposed to be doing because I've surrendered to what God has given me, what He needs me to do. So like for anybody who's watching this and like you're trying to figure out what does surrendering mean, like for me it's like what is it I was supposed to do. And a lot of the factors play into that. Like, who were you as a kid? You got to think about that. Like, what are there's every kid's different. You could see the kids that, are more fashionable, or you could see the kids that want to play sports more and like, they don't see themselves playing video games as much, or, there's different reasons. And you've already been created. So you're already kind of drawn to a certain aspect or a certain thing or certain things or certain characteristics. So like when you become older, you just have to accentuate all those characteristics into whoever, it is. So like I think it takes a lot of finding like who you were as a kid and who you were as a teenager, what stuck with you, because sometimes we can grow up and then, oh, I'm gonna do this because my parents or this, but then I think that's ego too, because you're like, oh, like, and it becomes ego because, oh, now I can buy a house, and now I can buy a car. You talk about this, oh, now, and then everybody starts talking about, oh, I have this, I have that, and then that's ego, right? We always
Mm-hmm.
talk about that. That's their ego, because you're comparing, oh, I got this and I got that, I could do this, I could do that, I'm traveling. People people I don't know. It's just crazy. You see it on social media all the time. Like it's ego. It's like like, I don't know. It's like, but you can also find the people that are listening to their purpose.
Yeah.
And I say chasing purpose, not so because, but it's kind of is chasing purpose because you want to find who you are for like that's something that you want to be quick to, because the quicker you are to finding who you are supposed to be, the more time you have in getting your true potential.
Mm-hmm.
Like say, oh, like I lived life, right? I lived life, and oh, like at say in my life right now, I
Mm-hmm.
said I was supposed to be a fighter, but I didn't find out I was supposed to be a fighter till 35. That's
Yeah.
like the end of my career as a fighter. And
Mm-hmm.
if because I didn't take it, like I wasn't urgent on finding out that I was supposed to be a fighter. Now I'm kind of like, oh, it's kind of late.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think finding your purpose as soon as possible is the best thing to do. And it takes a lot of work. I mean, dude, journaling for a long time. I have notebooks here that I look back and I'm like, damn, like that's the time I was finding myself. Like those
Mhm.
are the like look at like I was like I read back on some of the times I journaled and I was like, wow, I am so different from when I was writing in my but I was finding myself. Like I was like,
For the
what
record,
are
when
what
I
are
was 13 writing my journal, I sounded very pessimistic. I was very pessimistic.
and so like yeah, I mean, shoot, like it's just crazy. That's what I'm thinking. So, but surrendering, yeah, like I don't know. I think I went on a tangent, but I hope it helps someone who listened to this.
And no, I mean, honestly, surrendering, it's really a soul. It is a spiritual journey, period. It's a spiritual journey when you're going into the soul. The ego is what we have in society right now. Did you know? And this is going to shock you, which we're going to talk about that in our next podcast. We don't want to ramble on and on and on because we've been up here for like almost 40 minutes now, but we'll give you guys a little bit of 5 minute preview of what the next topic will be. I'm going to talk about relationships because, I just recently also discovered that relationships can also be an addiction. And I didn't even realize that. Ooh, isn't that crazy? I was like, that is going to be a topic for the next episode. But I will tell you, relationship, and I just found this out, that it's very egoistic. Like people always ask the perfect partner, the perfect everything, the perfect this. But what if you're not trying to surrender? This is once again part of the soul concept, right? Ego versus soul. What is it that you are resisting as to why you're not getting the perfect relationship? You're not getting the perfect partner. Why? Because you are not trusting God's divine plan with that. Why is that? Because you're looking to be on love, not to be in love. When I say in love, it's the soul up from within. When I say on love, you're looking at from the exterior of validation, affirmation, and wants. That's ego. And guess what? When you go for that ego, you're never going to get what you desire. It goes hand in hand. Same thing with manifestation. But I'm going to go ahead and end this podcast because I don't want to give out too much away. So we are going to talk about ego versus soul part 2, but relationship situation. Today we just talked about the meaning of it so that way we can understand. So we'll go ahead and do this on the following next episode with me and Paulo. But to all of our audience, thank you so much for coming through and listening to us. If you guys want to subscribe, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Of course, Paula will probably have his own little channel and podcast as well, but he'll also sharing with me here in my channel. But please make sure to leave a comment if you guys have something good to say, positive. Please, only positive things if you can. Try to refrain from negativity. We're not trying to spread anything negative. Again, there's no right or wrong in any of the discussions that we have or perspective of people. We respect everybody out there, okay? We are just here to talk, conversation with when all things dot 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 are possible, when all things manifest, when all things are everything all at once, the good, the bad, and the worst. So I will go ahead and say good night to everybody. And anything else that you want to talk about, Paula, or are we ending it pretty quickly here today?
No, that was great. That was a great podcast. I'm looking forward to the next one.
All right. Bye everybody.